All right, when we really break it down, is the old man nothing more than a gritty retelling of my two dads? I'm dating myself. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. We're gonna do things a little bit differently here because I'm so far behind on this, and I haven't even gotten my first uh, Aaron Hernandez review up yet. I'm gonna do these together, so this is gonna be episodes 9 and 10 in this particular review, which is filling because they all sort of these, especially with the old man, they all sort of go hand in hand. This episode 9 is a direct follow up to the two-parter that we got with the season premiere of the old man season 2. We pick up right at the gunshot at the end of the last two episodes, actually, where we saw it from both viewpoints. We saw it from Hamzad and Angela's viewpoint, and we saw it from Harold and Dan. So in this one, we pick up and we see Hamzad is about to shoot Dan, and Harold wakes up out of his sleep and shoots Hamzad and gets the drop on him. And so that's the gunshot that we hear to the shot that hit Hamzad. He's in a bad way. And so Harold and Dan are trying to figure out what the hell's happening. And then all of a sudden, Angela walks into the cave as well. And Angela has a moment where she's like, I see my two dads. And Harold, who's like my third, if you will. She immediately goes to Hamzad, mainly because he's hurt. And just to see, hey, like, let me check to make sure that he's okay. Once she gets him to at least see that he's not dying in the moment, she turns around and gives Dan the biggest hug humanly possible. So she, even though her eyes have been opened and she now knows who her true father is, her biological father is, she still has an affinity for Dan. Like, that hasn't been broken. But she is, and we learn this over these next two episodes, a very changed person. She is not the same Angela / Emily that she was before she took this trip. Dan and Harold are right now ready to be like, cool, let's dip out and let's leave Hamzad to die. And Angela's like, no, we can't do that. She is now grown to care about the people in Hamzad's village. She has a cousin, she has a nephew. That was the purpose of that episode too, and her spending so much time here, the growing and sort of getting intertwined with that village, is that it opened up sort of a unlocked cave. We use that as a term for this. And so now she is now more heart around that village. And so she's not willing to just leave them because she knows if Hamzad is removed, they are going to be in a bad way. And she knows that right now there are Taliban at their village at this moment who are willing to do harm if he doesn't get back there. So I can't just leave him to die because they're not going to end up in a good way. It's like he brought me here to sort of save me and then was going to go back, and now he can't go back, and they're going to be just screwed. Harold is like, no, we're not taking him to the village. We're not going to do that. And Dan's like, no, if this is what you want, Angela, I will help you get him back there. And Harold comes out and is like, well, why are we doing this? Like, since when are we helping Hamzad? And Dan's like, I don't know if you saw what I just saw in that cave, but she's not the same person. If we left and let him die, she would never forgive us. Something has changed in her enough that she is connected to Hamzad that she won't look at us the same if we just drop this and leave him there. So we need to do this. And he's coming at it from a father point. Harold hasn't spent enough time with her growing up to know her mannerisms and where she's at. And Dan sees like, yeah, we can't do this because if we do, we're both going to lose her. Meanwhile, back in the village, Omar's still in a standstill with Hamzad's sister, and they're going tit for tat, going back and forth. And then Torek, Hamzad's nephew, shows up. Her sister's son shows up and comes up in a helicopter. It's like, look, you were used, and I'm here to answer the questions about who was using you and whatnot. So you can leave now. I have money here for you to leave before this gets messier. Your next response is going to decide how we go about this. But the people that put you on this path were just trying to sort of get feelers out. It is best for you now to leave and just go about it. Omar's not hearing any of that. He then talks to his mother for a moment and is like, look, we are in a world of hurt right now. Like, the person that froze our assets is Morgan Boat, who is directly connected to Dan and Harold. And Morgan wanted us to deliver Dan. Instead, we brought in Angela, and now he's pissed and he's freezing everything. So that is why things are going the way that they are. While they're having that conversation, Omar and his Taliban are starting to retreat. I'm like, all right, cool. Then we're going to go ahead and leave. As they are about to leave, Omar sees Angela's nephew slash cousin, if you will. It's Farouk, the kid that she's become so attached with. And he just starts asking him questions like, hey, is there a new woman in your village? And does she not speak our language, our tongue? And he's like, yeah. He's like, do you know what her name is? And that's when he just like hauls off and slaps her and starts to run. Chaos ensues because Farouk's mother is killed. The cousin that sort of helped Angela get back to normal. She's shot, and then just bullets just start flying all over the place. Hamzat's sister comes immediately to grab Farouk, get him to safety, and she's about that life. She pulls out a gun in the middle of gunfire. It's like, nah, I'm going to get this kid, and we're going to bring him to safety. While gunfire ensues, so it's just now pure chaos. Dan and them were trying to make their way back to Hamzat's village, and Dan is kind of asking Hamzat, like, what did you do? Like, what did you say to her to sort of unlock whatever she is now? And Hamzat's like, I'm not giving you that. You would like to know that, but that's not coming from me right now. Dan tries to talk to Angela about it. Angela's like, look, I know where this is at, and your and I relationship is still solid. Don't worry about that. There's some things that have changed, and I just need to deal with it. So now is not the time to talk about this. I just need you to help me get Hamzat back there, and we will discuss all of this later. And Dan's like, all right, cool. There's a couple of people who are like standing watch on Omar's team who they have to remove from the situation. And Angela's like, I'll go do it. And Dan's like, nope, I will do it, even though he's in a bad way. And she's like, I'm good enough. I know I can do this. And Dan's like, I know you can. But if I'm going to help you, I need you to help me and let me go ahead and do this. So Dan goes down there, takes the two out, but he has a little bit of a hard time with the last one because there's a gun in reach. Angela comes out, holds his hand, and sort of stops him from being able to reach the gun so Dan can finish this. So they sort of work in tandem. But you can see that a lot of the things that Angela is doing, Dan is sort of just picking up on cues and reading it. It's like, I know she's an FBI agent, but she's doing this differently than she used to. And I'll bring that up a little bit later. At this point, Dan is like, hey, your whole village is barricaded. The front door is barricaded. You can't just walk through the front door. We need to sneak in. Do you know any other back ways? And Hamzat's like, I'm not sneaking into my own village. I'm going through the front door. And he does. So he leaves, goes to the front door. Is when Harold and them try to make that call back to the helicopter. Be like, hey, I need you to come get us. We got 3 for pickup. We'll put you in a safe spot. So he makes that call. The problem is when he goes to make that call, Angela then grabs a horse and just makes a beeline to the village to follow after Hamzat. So Harold immediately has to call back and be like, change the course. I need the copter moved to this location, which is not a safe zone, but he needs this done because all hell is breaking loose. And he knows if Angela's going down there, it's going to go in a bad way. Angela meets up with Hamzat, who has fallen basically at the feet of Omar. He's pretty much a pretty good space away from him, but he's fallen. He's in a bad way. He is dying. Angela goes to pick him up, and Omar is kind of like, look, I just want him. We will leave here. We will take him. We will go away. But I can't leave here until I know who you are. Like, there is something about you that all of this has gone into hell. Like, you're fighting this war for reasons that I don't understand. He's like, I don't get it. I'm curious to see who you are. I know you are the person that an American abducted and came back, and you're here again. But why is this all so important? Why are you so tied into all of this? Angela gets a little closer to him, starts reaching for her pocket, and kind of just says her true name, Hamzat Parwat. I can't say it, but basically, I'm Hamzat's daughter. He has a brief moment where he looks towards Hamzat, and then Angela takes a knife and stabs it into his face, side of his face. More gunfire starts ensuing. Dan is, as a sniper, on a rock high up, giving her cover, and so it's just shooting out people, and then just insanity ensues. Angela goes back to Hamzat to get him out of firing away, and then just insanity, just more fire, until the helicopter that was called comes in and just starts blowing people to high hell. And they end this back and forth real fast. Once sort of the dust is settled and everybody has gone back to their respective corners, we see Omar, who's still alive, crawling for help, for safety or whatnot. And Angela takes her gun. while he's crawling and shoots two gun bullets to the back of his head to kill him. It's important to note the energy that she has when she does so. We then bleed right into the next episode, episode 10, where Hamzat is in a very bad way. He's being looked at by doctors. They take the bullet out, but the doctor gives the note to his sister, like, he's not going to make it. It's at that point that Hamzat asks for Angela, calls for Angela to come be by his bedside. He wants to see her. Once he has a conversation with her, they're all sort of gathered there. They say that they have about 72 hours before people invoke upon this village and just everybody gets wiped out and killed. Off to the side, Harold and Dan keep trying to stall the helicopter. They're like, hey, it's going to be 5 more minutes. She's going to come. I promise you she's going to come. She's going to be here. Harold goes to Dan. It's like, where is she? And Dan's like, she'll be here in time. In due time, she will be here. She knows how much time she roughly has before we have to get up out of here. She arrives, finally, but with Farouk in hand. And she's kind of like, look, I'm not leaving. I need you guys to go and handle business. I need you to go to Morgan Bow and beg and plead, do whatever it is that you can. You guys have attachments to him. I need you to go and get his stuff, get him to release the funds or release the assets so these guys can get back to doing what it is they're doing and they can get back to protecting themselves. They are in this only because I came here instead of you, Dad, instead of Dan. And at that point, Dan's like, well, okay, I guess we have to attempt to do this. She says, I know how this looks. This looks like I'm choosing one father over you. That is not the case. You and I are still good. You and I, our relationships are still fine. Yes, it has changed. I still am the same person to both of you that I have always been, but I am also something new to him. And if you guys, and if I got on this helicopter and left, you wouldn't recognize this person. You would no longer think of me the way that you used to. And so basically saying the stuff that you instilled in me, Dad, I need to go. I need to do this. And Dan's kind of like, okay, all right, let's go ahead and do this. So I think Dan said something to Harold to the point, like some part of her is gone, like what we used to know is gone, but there's a new piece of her that is being born in all of this. And it's just forming the new person that she is. And we just have to be the parents, the dads that are good enough to let her sort of explore whatever this is. Hamza wants Emily / Angela to leave the Torque. Like, you need to get the hell up out of here. This isn't going to be safe for you here. Leave this village. Go do whatever you did your part. You put your father's, Harold and Dan, in motion. Now I just need you to leave. Go get to safety. While on their plane, Harold is saying to Dan, let me do the talking. And Dan's like, ain't gonna be no talking. I'm gonna go ahead and just murk this dude up and and torture him to give us the information that we want. And Harold's like, this dude's 100. That can't be the method. Because if we do, he's gonna give out real fast. We need to talk. And Dan's like, this sweet talking ain't gonna do it. But sure, we'll give it a shot. While they approach Morgan's home, Harold is ducking Marion's calls. Like, Marion just keeps calling, he's ducking them. They get to Morgan's residence for a chat, and Morgan immediately is like, nah, I'm not doing that for you. He denies the request, get right off the bat. And then all of a sudden, Dan hears his dogs. Oh, the dogs are back, yeah. He hears his dogs. And then Zoe comes around the corner. Long time no see, Zoe comes around. And Zoe is at Morgan's place, and they have sort of formed a bond. They've gotten Zoe wrapped into all of this Hamzat stuff because Zoe had reached out to Hamzat's lawyer. Hamzat's lawyer was being watched by Morgan. And so Morgan then reached out to and sort of brought Zoe in here. And they've sort of formed this weird familial relationship. While there, Zoe gets a call from a lawyer that says, hey, we're going to ask to meet in a week. Now, we can see now that was probably a tracker or a place like, hey, I'm trying to see where you're at in placement because I'm coming there. That's how it reads on the screen, but we'll get that in a bit. Morgan tells Dan, like, hey, you never gave me the heads up that Emily / Angela was Hamzat's daughter. Dan says, well, I didn't explicitly tell you what was going on. I didn't verbally spell it out. I did give you the heads up. And Morgan kind of like, okay, maybe you did. At this point, Dan and Harold split out. Morgan's not helping, and they're sort of at an impasse. It's like, hey, let's all retreat, get a drink, come back, we'll talk about this. Zoe follows after Dan while they're outside, and Zoe's like, look, let me have a conversation with Morgan. He and I have a better bond, but right now he sees you. There's so much in between the two of you, and the two of you are a lot alike. That's why this is happening. And there's so much between the two of you that he's not going to help you face to face. He wants to help you. He does. but he's not going to help you if you come at him like this. Let me try to assuage this a little bit, and I think I might be able to get you some help. Dan's like, he kind of was like, I wish I hadn't gotten you into this. You don't need to be in this. And Zoe's like, well, I'm here. I'm in it now. So they split. He goes off to do that, and then Zoe goes back to Morgan. Tariq has a conversation with Angela for the first time ever. They really didn't get to meet. And Tariq says Hamza really didn't want anything to do with me when I was younger because I reminded him too much of you. Like the voice patterns and whatnot, I reminded him of you, and he wanted nothing, no parts of that. You need to now be the person, because Hamza's in a bad way. You need to now be the person to go to speak to the family and sort of galvanize them. They need your energy. They need you. They trust you. They've seen what you have done. Hamza is very much gone, and then we subsequently see that he passes away. While they mourn, Tariq says, "I'll stay for the burial, and then I got to dip." And Angela, you should not be that far behind. It's at that point that Tariq's mom's like, "Well, look, Angela, you can either stay or you can go." And she is saying, like, "Look, I know I told you that in the cave, the Taliban shot Hamza, but it was," and her aunt is like, "Look, say less. I already know. We know what happened. I know what happened in that. Your parents, your Dan and Harold did what they thought they had to do to protect themselves. Um, you have put them on a path to sort of make things right. As far as anyone outside of this room is concerned, the Taliban shot Hamza. We're never going to speak of who actually shot him again. No one needs to know that." Zoe goes back to Morgan and asks him to help Harold and Dan. And he says, if I have given you the belief that I am the type of person that would help Dan and Harold, it's because I wanted you to believe that. I'm not that type of person. Then we hear the dogs barking, and like they're going off a little bit. And it's not, obviously, if it was Dan coming back, they wouldn't be so loud. It's somebody else that is very different than either of them. Morgan gets up, tells Zoe to hide. Morgan stands sort of in front of a desk. There's a desk that there's a hole in the middle of the, and Zoe stays on the side to the right of the camera. It's a great shot. Stays on the side where you can see Morgan standing in the little opening while she's off to the side, hiding. And then a gunshot goes off, and Morgan drops to the ground. He's dead. They sort of start looking around to see if anybody else is in the room, and then Dan comes back and starts taking people out. Dan comes back to find Zoe and sees that Zoe is like, okay, Morgan's dead. And he's basically like, well, whoever you have reached out to is much closer than Pavlovich than we originally thought. And I think that her getting that call was sort of that signal, was like, that's where you have to go to reach out to. That was sort of the signal to that. But he also looks back and sees that Morgan's dead. It's like, well, crap, the lifeline that Emily had in this dangerous ass country is now gone. And so she's on her own. We then see a shot of Pavlovich sort of setting up, getting set. And he's like, well, the true targets were Harold and Dan. Those were the people that we were trying to take out, not Morgan. Morgan, he's like, it's going to suck to have him not on the board, but that's not who he was going after. He was really trying to get those two. He's like, well, and now I need you guys to go finish the job. And so we now have this bit of a race to get Emily to safety. She's going to try to probably be, her heart is now saying, like, I need to be the person to galvanize this family, speak for this family. But now she doesn't have that lifeline. And so Dan and Harold have to both save their own ass while Pavlovich coming after them, and then get to Emily in time to get her out of there for safety. So there's a lot of pieces happening that have made this show that much more interesting to me. It is a slow burn. It is not the action-oriented stuff that we saw in the first 2 episodes of the very first season, but I'm digging it. I'm liking it. There's a lot of character development, and I think, let me be honest with you. In the first season, I did not like Angela Emily's character at all. At all. Anytime that she showed up on screen, I was bored. They have managed to turn her and do a complete 180 with me with her. And I think that is kudos to the writing team. But now I see that she's basically a woman torn into 3 different worlds, and she has to make a decision. And it's not going to be an easy decision for her. I'm glad to see that Amy is back, the actress Amy, character named Zoe. Glad to see that she's back. Got to see the dogs are back. He's sort of now back at full strength, if you will. And so, yeah, these first 4 episodes sort of acted as a Let's clean up the bridge from the first season, and now we're off to tell the story of what this season is going to do. Yeah, we're at the halfway point, and there's going to be 8 episodes. So that was closing out that story. These next 4 episodes are going to kind of tell the story of season 2, close it out, and see where we go from there. But what do you guys think about Old Man season 2 so far? Episodes 9 and 10. You can leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.